For being a main character in the first 3 books and seasons of Game of Thrones, we didn't get as much Robb Stark as you would expect. We all should have seen his early death coming after realizing he didn't get a single POV chapter. It was all his mother Cat. The story kicks off when he's 14, same age as Jon Snow, except Robb is forced to grow up a little quicker than his brother.
Kill the boy, Jon Snow.
While his father's away in King's Landing, the Lannisters attack the Riverlands, the kingdom where his noble mother hails from. It was a personal attack on their family after Catelyn captures Tyrion. When questioning what he should do about the whole Lannister situation as the acting ruler of the North, his little crippled brother Bran is ambushed during their leisurely horse ride through the woods. Robb's first real combat test. Author George Martin gave him a little training arc before the big war. Robb was a born leader. He fearlessly attacks the 6 ambushers, some wildlings, a couple deserters of the Night's Watch, with 2 direwolves by his side. Robb kills his first man that day on his horse without hesitation while the wolves clean up the rest. This bit of training was good, obviously not quite enough to prepare a kid for commanding an army 40,000 strong. But he knows his Lord Father would not send others to die while he stayed safe behind the walls of Winterfell. Many of the Stark's own men try to test Robb after the banners were called to march south, each tested in their own way. Some tried to persuade Robb of marrying one of their own, another bribed wanting extra land, many demanded honor of battle command. Roose Bolton, Robert Glover, Major Mormont, and Great John Umber. Robb answered each of them with cool courtesy, much as his father might have, and he bent them to his will. Just things with Lord Great John Umber got a little violent. Great John stood as tall as Hodor and 3 times as wide, threatened to take his forces home if he was placed behind Hornwoods or the Cerwyns in the order of the march. Robb told him he was welcome to do so, and when we are done with the Lannisters, he promised, scratching Grey Wind behind the ear, we will march back north, root you out from your keep, and hang you for an oathbreaker. Cursing, the Great John flung a flagon of ale into the fire, and bellowed that Robb was so green he must piss grass. When Hollis Mullen moved to restrain him, he knocked him to the floor, kicked over a table, and unsheathed a large and ugly greatsword. Robb only said a quiet word, and in a snarl and the blink of an eye, Lord Umber was on his back, his sword spinning on the floor, and his hand dripping blood where Grey Wind had bitten off 2 fingers. My Lord Father taught me that it was death to bear steel against your liege lord, Robb said, but doubtless you only meant to cut my meat. Astonishingly, the huge man laughed. Your meat, he roared, it's bloody tough. And somehow, after that, the Great John became Robb's right hand, his staunchest champion, loudly telling all and sundry that the boy lord was a Stark after all, and they damn well better bend their knees if they didn't fancy having them chewed off. There's a little more to the scene though. 14-year-old Robb, maybe 15 by this point in the story, was kinda just faking it till he made it. He showed no sign of weakness in front of his bannermen, but he was scared shitless in the presence of an angry Great John Umber, the strongest man the North has to offer. That very night, he came to Bran's bedchamber, pale and shaken, after fires had burned low in the Great Hall. I thought he was going to kill me, Robb confessed. Did you see how he threw down Hall like he was no bigger than Rickon? Gods, I was so scared. And the Great John's not the worst of them, only the loudest. Lord Roose never says a word, he only looks at me. And all I can think of is that room they have in the Dreadfort, where the Boltons hang the skins of their enemies. Robb's instincts are on point to fear Roose Bolton, though he still has Roose command half of his army when they split up to throw the Lannisters off. Great John Umber and his great uncle Brendan Tully, known as the Blackfish, become his most trusted advisors on behalf of the army with Robb. Brendan being a man that even to this day Jaime admires and fanboys over. Half the Riverlands were on fire thanks to the mountain, so Robb had to act fast. He agreed to marry one of Lord Walder Frey's daughters to gain access to their bridge leading south, also acquiring the large Frey army. Cat's sister, Lysa Tully, refused to get involved in the war despite the Vale being close allies to the Starks and Tullys. Brendan was actually defending a key gate in the Vale and left his position to join Robb's cause. He became key in helping Robb strategize the first attack on the Lannisters. Apart from being a mentor and advisor, Brendan leads the scouts. He'd been gone a while, but he knows the Riverlands a whole lot better than the Westerlanders. Brendan was taking out the Lannisters' ravens and select scouts. They thought they knew exactly where Robb and his army were, but out of nowhere, the first battle came knocking on Tywin Lannister's tent by the Green Fork, a section of a large river here in this kingdom called the Trident. Tyrion, who was also in the camps, was confused by this plan. The Northers would have been exhausted after their long sleepless march. Tyrion wondered what they had been thinking. Did he think to take them unawares while they slept? Small chance of that. Whatever else might be said of him, Tywin Lannister was no man's fool. Within an hour, Tywin had his army ready, easily crushing the North. What looked like a major loss for Robb was actually a perfectly executed play by Robb. It was Roos's faction fighting the Westerlanders, not Robb. Roose was up against an army with 4 capable commanders. Kevin Lannister at the center, Sir Adam Marbrand, Jaime's childhood best buddy, led the cavalry on the right, the Mountain on the left, and Tywin in the back, calling all the shots. There was a 0% chance of victory against their larger army. This was only a distraction. Tywin senses this doesn't seem like an army commanded by a teenager. The attack on their camp was executed cautiously. Amateur leaders are more like to be brave than wise. Roose attacked, then safely retreated with minimal losses. Roose was cautious and not green. Robb was a short rides away. His half of the army went after Jaime to save the Tully's castle Riverrun under siege by the Kingslayer. The Kingslayer is restless and quick to anger, Brendan had told Robb, and he had wagered their lives and their best hope of victory on the truth of what he said. Robb had given the Blackfish 300 picked men and sent them ahead to screen his march. Jaime does not know, Sir Brendan said when he rode back. I'll stake my life on that. No bird has reached him, my archers have seen to that. We've seen a few of his outriders, but those that saw us did not live to tell. He ought to have sent out more, he does not know. The Kingslayer has us 3-1, said Galbert Glover. True enough, Sir Brendan said. Yet there is one thing Jaime Lannister lacks. Yes, Robb asked. Patience. He is no man for sitting in a tent while his carpenters build siege towers, Sir Brendan had promised. He has ridden out with his knights 3 times already. Nodding, Robb had studied the map Brendan had drawn him. Ned had taught him to read maps. Raid him here, he said, pointing. A few hundred men, no more. Tully banners. When he comes after you, we will be waiting. His finger moved an inch to the left, here. Sir Brendan baited out Jaime with only a portion of Jaime's army chasing the Blackfish. Then Robb's whole army attacked after hiding in the woods. Robb and Grey Wind didn't distinguish themselves in the fighting itself in their first battlefield. When Jaime saw that he was lost, he rallied his retainers and fought his way up the valley, hoping to reach Lord Robb and cut him down, and almost did. 3 noble heirs died defending Robb from Jaime. Jaime went berserk, killing Torrhen and Eddard Karstark, as well as Jorman Hornwood, while shouting for Robb. The Lannisters lost 10 more for every one of ours that fell. Close to 100 knights captive and a dozen Lord Bannermen, and 3 Lannisters besides Jaime, were Tywin's own nephews. The fighting wasn't done though. Jaime's army was still holding Riverrun under siege, not knowing Jaime was just captured. Westerlanders outside the castle were asleep when Brendan Tully hit, too slow to wake, and no leader telling them where to go or what to do. In this Battle of the Camps, Grey Wind is said to have killed 4 men and ripped apart a bunch of horses, causing a lot of chaos within the Westerland camps. They got slaughtered, with some managing to run off. 2 victories for Robb was all it took to start the legend of the Young Wolf. Grey Wind, like all the Stark Starwolves, was in tune with Robb, a powerful and intimidating weapon for the Northerners. There is no mention if Robb participated in the fighting alongside his bonded beast, because we don't get anyone's perspective in the Battle of the Camps. Tywin and his army were in a very bad position, trapped in the Riverlands, cut off from the west.
He's winning. Guess you hadn't noticed?
There were talks of attempting peace with the Young Wolf in Tywin's camp, but Joffrey's order of a public execution of Ned Stark killed all possibility of that. This dumb move even pisses off Tywin. He lost any hope of trading hostages to save his son Jaime. Tyrion is sent to bring some sense of wisdom to King's Landing's court. With Joffrey, Stannis, Renly, and even Balon Greyjoy proclaiming themselves as kings, Greater Number says he will serve no other man but Stark, naming Robb King in the North, their family's old title. There were a lot of options for what to do next for the new king in the North. Theon was sent to the Iron Islands to win over the Greyjoys in hopes of an alliance. Catelyn was sent to the Baratheons, and with her we lost a POV character following Robb. Renly and Stannis stupidly fight themselves instead of allying with Robb to beat the Lannisters and take King's Landing. While everyone else is dealing with negotiations, Robb makes another bold play, sneaking into the Westerlands while the majority of their army is cooped up in the Riverlands. I really wish we just got one POV chapter, showing exactly how Robb managed to do it, because something interesting does go down behind the scenes. During the second book, we get this explanation from a cat chapter, when speaking with some Freys long after the fact. How did the king ever take the tooth? Sir Perwyn Frey asked his bastard brother. That's a hard, strong keep, and it commands the hill road. He never took it. He slipped around in the night. It said the direwolf showed him the way, that Grey Wind of his. The beast sniffed off a goat track, a crooked and stony way, yet wide enough for men to ride single file. The Lannisters, in their watchtowers, got not so much of a glimpse of them. There's some that say that after the battle, the king cut out Stafford Lannister's heart and fed it to his wolf. I would not believe such tales, Catelyn said sharply. My son is no savage. A lot of us nerds have been debating how exactly Greywind showed Robb a hidden passage. It's not like they communicate, and Robb has never mentioned wolf dreams or warging into his partner. Robb is a confirmed warg, and this may have been his one and only magical experience. Even Cat, who wasn't even raised believing the old gods, recognizes something fantastical going on between these two, and hopes Greywind was always by his side. However Robb saw that secret trail, it led them to Lannisters, bypassing the main road and a fortress, in what's remembered as the Battle of the Ox Cross. Tywin's cousin, who also happened to be his brother-in-law, cause incest things, was in charge of training the men who were not ready to go out with Tywin prior. Without even considering a northern attack, since no one ever spotted them in the Westerlands, they attack in the night again. Greywind was sent first to cause all the horses to freak out and trample their own sleeping riders. In their confusion, Robb's army kills thousands. Robb added to his achievements, earning a new nickname, the Wolf in the Night. His off-screen invasion of the Westerlands didn't end there. While Robb and his advisors planned out their next great idea, Tywin attempted to go after Robb in his own kingdom. Edmure Tully, in charge of Riverrun, saw his chance to defeat Tywin once and for all, and went for it, though without Robb's leave. Edmure inadvertently ruined Robb's next move. Edmure took out so many of Tywin's men over some days in the Battle of the Forts, but Robb wanted to time his attack on Tywin perfectly, so that there was nowhere to retreat to. Robb's plan was to let Tywin chase him, giving Stannis the opportunity to take King's Landing. But instead, thanks to Edmure, Tywin ran away from the Riverlands to King's Landing to help send Stannis back into the sea. While this was happening, Robb went to work conquering some seats in the Westerlands, so they had some level of defense and comfort while there. First, he takes the Marbrand's castle in the taking of Ashmark. In the storming of the Crag, the next castle he took, where the Westerlings rule, Robb gets his first injury, just a minor one. He gets hit by an archer's arrow in the arm while storming the castle. Lady Jane Westerling nurses him back to health. Her noble parents convince her to be good to him, probably to keep the savage young wolf from ripping out their hearts too. While injured and in a feverish state, Robb receives news that the Greyjoys, led by his old friend Theon, took Winterfell and killed his young brothers. Jane comforted him a little too well because Robb slept with her that night and decided to marry her since she was noble and wouldn't want to dishonor her after she cared for him. This was cut for more of a love story in Game of Thrones with a brand new female character. Robb's deep sense of justice also made him pay back the Lannisters for what they did to the Riverlands. Gold mines were taken, and livestock were herded into the Riverlands, but his victories in the Westerlands would be his last. Catelyn frees Jaime Lannister in her grief over Bran and Rickon, in hopes he would return Arya and Sansa to her. That was a deal they made, pissing off the Karstarks. Robb lost a Frey support after the Jane nonsense, and now the Lannisters were allied with the Tyrells. While all this was going down, for some reason, Northerners attacked the castle in the Crownlands near King's Landing. A battle with no point. Worse, Robb didn't order the assault. 5 of some of the more powerful northern houses are completely destroyed in the foolish plot. Roose Bolton secretly defected to the other side, after being offered the Stark's title and lands by Tywin. Roose had heard how the Freys wanted to bend the knee already, and together, Bolton and Frey could secure a safe exit from the war. But the cautious Roose had to weaken the north first. That's why he ordered the attack on the Crownlands castle. Then the Red Wedding, Robb's last fight, if you can call it that. Greywind senses the Frey's animosity towards his partner, but Robb was just a little too uninformed and inexperienced with their bond. The direwolf was locked away, and the unarmed Northerners were slaughtered during Edmure's wedding to the Frey girl. The only one who really fought back was Greyjohn Umber. Even after the Freys made sure he drank enough alcohol to kill 3 men, the Greyjohn took the first guy's sword that charged him, bit another guy's ear off, while 8 men finally subdued him in chains. Robb wasn't lucky enough to be a prisoner of war in their castle. In the end, Greywind's head was sewn onto his decapitated body, to make the rumors of the young wolf transforming in the night a reality. 3 books worth of battles for Robb Stark. The show lived, King in the North. Thanks for watching, guys.